Hey folks, Josh Reeves here to remind you that the Global Reality is a 100% publicly funded operation that relies on the monthly support of our listeners for survival. We don't have paid advertisements or commercial sponsors who can ever dictate the content of our work. Donations can be made through PayPal by using my PayPal email address, dayglow76@yahoo.com. That's DAYGLOW76@yahoo.com. Or on the Cash App by using the cash tag Reeves Radio. All lowercase, one word, Reeves Radio on the Cash App. You can also purchase all of my work in my download store with all the films, audiobooks, and presentations I have made. And purchasing these items also helps us survive. You can also purchase a membership for the show and access years of archived shows. Support true grassroots media and activism, not beholden to commercial sponsors. We can't survive without you, so show your support today.
Since 2007, one man has dared to expose the sinister power players on all sides of the phony political spectrum. Armed with over 30 years of research knowledge of the paranormal, government conspiracies, geopolitics, secret and ancient societies, the esoteric arts, and much more. One man's quest for knowledge has become a mission for the enlightenment of all people. Broadcasting from the conspiracy ground zero of Dallas, Texas, this is The Global Reality with your host, Josh Reeves.
All right, welcome everybody. Wednesday, October 30th, 2024. I'm your host, Josh Reeves, back here with you again for another edition. Whew, I am beat like a circus monkey, but guys, I've been working my ass off. Hope you guys are doing well. My newest film, 29th film of the year. Yeah, no, it's finally started to catch up with me. I'm so exhausted. 29th film of the year, 49th overall. It's called Death from the Left. Socialism, Marxism, and Communism. It's on sale in the download store now. It's an hour and 13 minutes. It's only $12. Buy a copy immediately so I can eat, okay? I've had a bag of popcorn and a piece of chicken all week. Please, I'm literally starving to death over here. What we got in last week all had to go to keep the power and the electricity on. And we've got nothing else in before that. Since we covered the operating costs last month, we got nothing else in past that last week. And the operating costs are coming up due again soon. So, everybody just go buy a copy of this film. Donate whatever you can. dayglow76@yahoo.com. Reeves Radio, all lowercase, one word. Reeves Radio on the Cash App. Kevlar J Josh dash Kevlar Reeves dash 61 on Venmo. I gotta tell you, I know I mentioned it several times this year, but I really enjoyed keeping my projects and my films and stuff under wraps. Because I learned my lesson. It was a big lesson I had to learn when I made those Spellcasters sequels. Because they just became such a gargantuan piece of research, the likes of which I did not expect or anticipate before I announced I was going to make those films. So they ended up taking years longer than I wanted them to. Because the research was to such a degree that it just took me that long to figure out how to put it all into a digestible form. But, there's 5 Spellcasters films out now. 6 really, well, if you count the Spellcasters Addendum, the CIA Dirty Tricks Department, which came out this year, which not a lot of people bought. And it's a shame because it's a really good film. But this newest one, I've been playing this one for a little while. And my idea was I wanted to drop it somewhere around the election. And I did that. Again, it's called Death from the Left. Go check it out. I've mentioned several times, I always mention how one of the things that keeps me going with making these films is that no matter how much I know about a subject going in to it before I make a film about it, I always come out on the other side knowing more about that topic than I did before I made the film. And again, this is another one of those films where that's the case yet again. Really interesting. Because I always grew up, I remember I'm, 48, when I was going to school, growing up and stuff, it was the height of the Cold War. So I always just grew up assuming, I guess, or just from what I had learned, that communism and all that stuff was a 100% top-down agenda of evil of, the powers that be. So that's the one thing I walked away from with this film, when my research for it, that I did not know. But that it's one of those things where I didn't know it, but then I go, oh, well, yeah, okay, that makes total sense. But I had no idea that that wasn't the case. Communism was not a top-down agenda from the elite in the beginning. It was not. It was actually a grassroots working class ideology for, blue collar working class people. And it got hijacked later and turned into a system of control. Originally, it was just supposed to be about not turning people into wage slaves. And guess what happened? The whole world are virtually wage slaves. And communism became a ideology of control and power consolidation, and evil, all the things we know it to be now. But originally it was not that way. It was not intended to be that when it was created. It was not created to be a mechanism of control. It was originally supposed to be the antithesis of that. It was supposed to be something that would not allow the controllers and the big money people and the corporations and everything to turn people into wage slaves. And that's exactly what happened. So that was fascinating for me to walk away when I did this. I'm going, oh, okay, wow, I never knew that. We didn't get taught that in school. I was just always growing up hearing communism is bad, 100%, no ifs, ands, or buts. And of course it has become that now, but initially, upon its initial creation, it was not that. But because it was intended to give power to the people and not allow the controllers to have power over the people, turning them into wage slaves, they had to hijack it and turn it into a system of control, and that's exactly what happened. I was shocked by that. I did not know that. I really didn't. I had no idea. I just always thought it was a top-down system of control from the very beginning, and it was not. And I think on the flip side of that, that's what a lot of these lefty liberals and stuff think now, is they read about the earliest intentions of communism and they think it's still that way now. They think the left and liberals still want that. Now, it's not, that's a falsehood. But I think that's why so many people on the left get duped into that, is because they believe in what the ideology of what it was originally supposed to be. And I think some of them still think it is that, and it couldn't be further from the truth. So, yeah, man. Yeah, again, I would never have dreamed that I would have ever done the bulk of my best work filmmaking-wise in 1 year. And I had this year 29 films. I became the most prolific documentary filmmaker of all time with my 45th film, Anunnaki the Movie. And then I'm just, I'm just fucking running up the scoreboard now. I want to put this thing completely out of reach, where nobody can ever top me or beat my record. And I will be there before the end of the year. 49 already is way over the record of 45, so. And I can't stress it enough. That guy who had the record before me, Frederick Wiseman, you really should go see one of that guy. Look at one. I mean, my films look like fucking masterpieces compared to this guy. This guy thought like going out in his front yard with a 8mm camera and just filming whatever he saw counts as making a film. No voiceovers, no music, nothing, no plot, no information, nothing. The crappiest bullshit films you've ever seen in your life. Worse than student films. If you turned this guy's films in as a student film, you'd get an F. I'm serious. That's it's crap. So, some people may try to downplay my work because a lot of what I've done, most of what I've done is in the conspiracy genre, but still, my films are masterpieces compared to the guy that held the record before me. Seriously. It's fucking hilarious. But, go get a copy. Death from the Left. It's out now. I told you about I got a new series coming out. And I'm working to get the first episode out for you the next day or so. It's called Josh Reeves Investigates. And it's going to be topics and things that, stuff where I wouldn't necessarily want to make an entire film about, but an episode of this show, I'm going to do it in season. So season 1, episode 1 will be out. And then I'm hoping down the road, maybe I can sell it to a streaming service or something. But it's not just going to be like the usual stuff I talk about. It will be some of that, of course, but there's going to be music stuff too. Here, I'll read you the intro script that's going to be in the intro for the show. I'll just read that to you. It says, I'm Josh Reeves, and I first started researching UFOs in the Bermuda Triangle in the 3rd grade in 1985. And then I started researching the Kennedy assassination in the early 90s. In 2007, I made my first film and started my radio show, The Global Reality. In this series, I will be investigating a different topic in each episode, from the strange and the unbelievable to things in the music world, to bring you new insight on interesting topics. This is Josh Reeves Investigates. So a lot of people love some of the music stuff that I do, but I've never been able to really find a home for that. I made 2 music documentaries this year, and they sold so poorly it made me not ever want to make one ever again. But then I've done shows on music stuff. People love that. So, there will be some music episodes in this. Maybe it'll be a band or an artist that's, maybe an obscure band artist maybe a lot of people don't know about. We'll do a deep dive on them. Something like that. But I'm excited. Episode 1's going to be good, and it'll be out. And you won't know what each episode is. I'm not going to I'm not going to do that. Because then it gives people, I'm not going to, I'm not going to give people the option to where they can go, oh, I'm not interested in that talk, so I'm not going to buy this episode. I'm not going to do that. You won't know what each episode is going to be. It'll just be episode 1, episode 2. But I can tell you this. It will be worth it, and it's going to be fucking good. But just please buy downloads. So I've had a piece of chicken and a bag of popcorn all week. I'm starving to death. So well, was I right or was I right? I told you that fucking Trump Joe Rogan episode was going to be the fucking biggest podcast of all time. I think the last time I checked it was like 41 million views or something. It was interesting. It definitely was interesting. Rogan I don't know why he was so obsessed. He wouldn't let Trump talk. He kept trying to go back to it. He was so obsessed with knowing, but what was it like when you first became president? What was that like? What was it like? He was obsessed with that. And Trump would explain it to him, and then it wasn't good enough. And he would go back and, well, what was it like? I want to know what it was like. Joe, it's the same answer that you've given people when people ask you, how becoming a huge known podcaster celebrity and getting all that money from Spotify has changed your life. You go, oh, I'm just a really same old guy. Bullshit. You're not. But that's the same answer you give. Well, that's the same answer Trump's going to give. It's like anything. Everything is unfamiliar and scary at first until you start doing it. And then once you do it for a while, it just becomes what you do and you don't even think about it. I did think it was interesting, his responses to the alien stuff and the JFK stuff. Very telling. I mean, he said it all without saying anything, really. Incredible. Joe asked him what they told him about the alien thing when he first became president, and his answer was a lot. Now that says it all to me. Wow. They told you a lot, huh? And he just left it at that, because of course he can't say anything. But that right there tells you. I mean, that was the two biggest takeaways from that interview for me. Number 1, aliens are real. Number 2, Oswald did not act alone in the Kennedy assassination. I mean, that was the two biggest takeaways. If you really were paying attention to what Trump was saying, that's what he told you without coming right out and saying it. And I haven't seen anybody covering that or putting that in news stories and stuff. That's what went on. He basically told you aliens are real, and Oswald didn't act alone because he was talking about how he opened the Kennedy documents, and then he was told by some people he shouldn't release and all that. And then he said, if I get reelected, I'm day 1, day 2, I'm fucking opening it all. I'm releasing it all. And, he did mention it, but he did want to before there were still some people alive. That made me go, okay. There were still some people alive then, so he didn't release them. But he's talking about releasing them now. Who's died since then? First few people that came into my mind was probably other ones, and maybe it isn't even, for all I know, it may not even be these two people, but the first two people that came into my mind was Zbigniew Brzezinski and Henry Kissinger. Because both those guys were still alive when Trump got into office in 2016, and they both died since, and he didn't want to release them then, but he will release them now, so it made me go, makes me wonder. And then, of course, the big news that's been in the news a lot this week has been he held his rally at Madison Square Garden. Yeah, and comedian Tony Hinchcliffe got up there and, listen, that was such bullshit. He made a joke about, Puerto Rico being an island of garbage. Because it is. You can look that up. It's been in the news. Tony didn't just pull that out of his ass. They had back-to-back natural disasters, and the leadership in Puerto Rico mismanaged the federal disaster funds that they got, and there's garbage everywhere. Instead of spending the money to clean it up, the leadership in Puerto Rico just pocketed the money. Typical corrupt leadership bullshit. And now they try to, Trump threw him under the bus and, I don't know who he is, which is total bullshit. He does, because when he was on Rogan, he was saying how much he watches Rogan. So if he watches Rogan a lot, he had to know who Tony Hinchcliffe is. But, listen, it's crazy to see what the show Kill Tony has turned into. Millions of views per episode now. It's actually on YouTube. I was actually at a Kill Tony one time here in Dallas. One of the early episodes, episode 200 something. I can't remember. Yeah, I was there. Listen, let me tell you something. When I first saw Kill Tony, it was so not known and popular yet that they couldn't even have it at night. You had to go to the comedy club at 3 o'clock in the afternoon for it because they couldn't sell enough tickets to do it at night. There was like 30 people there. I've met Tony Hinchcliffe several times. Yeah. I was going to his comedy shows years ago before he was known at all, and now to see what he's turned into, it's wild. But, one thing you gotta know about Tony, he's a master troll. And I asked him about this one time. He didn't come out and say yes, but he didn't exactly deny it. See, a lot of what Kill Tony is, a lot of people don't get about that show. A lot of what that show is, it's trolling. Tony's just a master troll. And a lot of people will never know. And I asked him, I said, man, be honest with me. A lot of what you do with this show is trolling, and you take some of these garbage comedians that have no business doing comedy, and then William Montgomery and stuff like that, and you turn them into these fucking megastars just to prove, it's almost like a fuck you to comedy in the comedy world. It's almost like you're trying to prove that you can turn anyone into a comedian. And he just kind of smiled and had this look on his face. He didn't say, oh, no, you're wrong. But he didn't say, yes, that's exactly. He didn't deny it either. He didn't deny it or confirm or deny. Kind of like a politician. But, yeah. I mean, it's a lot of what it is trolling. But it's funny. I think it's interesting that they made such a big deal out of that comment and said it was racist. He didn't say Puerto Ricans are garbage people. He said the island was an island of garbage now because it is, because like I said, they mismanaged the disaster relief funds after back-to-back natural disasters, and there's garbage everywhere on the island. It's fact. You can go look that up. But yet, comedian George Lopez was at Kamala's rally, and he said that Mexicans are thieves and they're all going to steal all of the construction equipment where they're building the wall at the border. But that was perfectly okay. The media didn't make a big deal of that. Not at all. He literally called Mexicans thieves. But no one made a big deal of that at all. Tony didn't say anything about the Puerto Rican people. He specifically talked about the island of Puerto Rico. Yeah, they're like I said, they're just trying. They're doing anything they can because they're scared, because they know Trump's got it in the bag. There's just no question about it now. But I was shocked when I heard Tony Hinchcliffe was at that rally, because I was wondering, well, who hooked that up? Because nobody will take responsibility for it. The assumption is it was somebody on Trump's staff or something, but was it? Tony's talked about how the Secret Service listens to his show and their earpieces and stuff, and he's talked for years about what a big Trump fan he is, and first thing I gotta admit, first thing I thought was, oh, it smells like a psyop almost, like that Lizzo thing, where Lizzo was paid to perform at Kamala's rally, and then she comes out on stage and just trashes her. And that smelled like a psyop. The Tony thing kind of smelled like a psyop a little bit too, but I mean, Trump definitely knows who he is. I didn't even know he was going to be at that rally. And then my sister was like, did you see the Tony video at the Trump rally? And I was like, Tony who? And she's like, Tony Hinchcliffe. I was like, what? She's like, yeah, he spoke at Trump's rally. And I was like, that's interesting. Because for the past couple of weeks, I've been hearing, I don't think it's going to happen now, but maybe, I don't know, but I have been hearing that Trump was going to be on Kill Tony. The new episodes come out every Monday night at 8. And that they were going to air this episode with Trump the Monday before the election. Now, I was hearing that like a week, 2 weeks before this rally took place. And then Tony just, when I heard that he was going to be on Kill Tony, I was like, oh, that's got to be bullshit, No way that'll ever fucking happen. And then the next thing I know, he's speaking at his rally. I'm like, maybe there is something to that. I don't know. Either way, I think it was much more. I mean, did you see who else he had to speak? Did you see who else he had to speak at that rally? Hulk Hogan. I think it was much more problematic to have Hulk Hogan speaking at your rally than Tony Hinchcliffe. I mean, Hulk Hogan called his own daughter an N-word lover. Yeah. His own daughter. And he used the whole word, hard R, and all. Yeah. So, I don't know. I think it was much more problematic for him to have fucking Hulk Hogan there. But, Trump says he never heard of Tony Hinchcliffe, who made the Puerto Rico garbage joke. Former President Donald Trump has claimed he's never heard of a controversial comedian who made the racist joke about Puerto Rico. There was nothing racist about that joke. He didn't say Puerto Rican people are garbage people. It's just again, another example of how the media just makes shit up, makes up lies. He didn't say that at all. He didn't say anything about the people of Puerto Rico. He was strictly talking about it being a garbage island, because it is. You can go look the pictures up. It's full of garbage because they had back-to-back natural disasters where the federal disaster relief funds were squandered by the leadership in Puerto Rico. They did not use it to clean up after the disasters like they were supposed to. And yes, there is garbage everywhere on that island. That's facts. Tony didn't just pull that out of his ass for no reason. But yeah, like I said, I've met Tony a couple times. He's a nice guy, man. He really is, down to earth. Real guy. His mom, it's fucking crazy. His mom used to run numbers for the mob. Oh, yeah. Yeah, he comes from Youngstown, Ohio. That was a major mafia town back in the day. If you don't know what the numbers are, the numbers were like an illegal lottery that the mafia ran for years. You'd pay $1 or pay $2 or whatever, and you'd pick a number, and then if your number hit, you won the pot or whatever. And Tony's mom ran that in Youngstown, Ohio for the mafia. Yeah, that's facts. Rick James's mother also did that. In fact, that's how Rick James initially broke into the music industry. Yeah, he had moved up to Toronto to dodge the draft. Yeah, Rick James was a draft dodger. He moved up to Toronto, Canada to avoid the draft, and then he hooked up with Another guy who was up and coming at that time, and who was not a famous musician yet, Neil Young. And they formed a band, and they were signed to Motown and stuff. It went nowhere. And then Rick James was trying to break out. That's why if you look at a lot of the early Rick James solo albums, and you look at the names of the producers and the producer credits on there, you'll see a lot of names with that end with vowels. Yeah, a lot of Italian names on Rick James records in the credits. Yeah, that's why. His mother went to the Mafia because she ran the numbers for the Mafia in Buffalo, New York, and she secured funding. I think she got a loan from the Mafia that paid for Rick James's recording of his first album. Yeah, that's absolutely all true. So, yeah, man. If you always associate, Mafia and all this stuff with only, bad, negative things, but not every single thing they did ever was always bad or negative. They actually did help a lot of people out. They'd give away, free food or on the holidays to neighborhoods, poor neighborhoods and stuff. They would, give loans like that would help people lost their career like it did. I mean, literally, we would not know who Rick James is had it not been for the Mafia. And who knows how many other, Frankie Valli, I mean, who knows how many other great musical acts, those are just the ones we know about. I mean, there are probably, who knows how many there are that we don't know about. It's interesting. But yeah, Tony Hitchcock's an old school Italian guy. His dad owned a Italian restaurant in Youngstown, Ohio, until the pandemic. I think after the pandemic, he had to close it down. Like a lot of businesses got shut down, but yeah, I don't think he was doing that to intentionally hurt Trump. And again, they keep saying that he made a racist comment. You can go listen to that his speech at the Trump rally. He did not say anything racist about Puerto Ricans. Now, if he would have said Puerto Ricans are a bunch of garbage people, a bunch of trash, brown trash from the island or something, okay, that would have been racist. He didn't say that. He strictly was talking about how it's an island full of garbage. Because it is literally, and you can go, there's been news stories out about it, and there's pictures of the trash piled up everywhere on the island because of corrupt leadership on the island. Those are facts. That was Tony actually knowing his shit, to be honest with you, not him just making some random statement about how Puerto Rico is trash. That means all the people who have said that he was making racist comments don't know what the fuck they're talking about. So that just goes to prove yet again that the media is full of shit and doesn't know what they're fucking talking about, because those are facts that the island is full of trash because of the mismanagement of disaster relief funds there. I just thought it was interesting that it took me by surprise that he was speaking at that rally. My sister was like, I just watched the Tony video at the Trump rally, and I was like, Tony who? And she's like, Tony Hitchcock. I was like, what? He spoke at the Trump rally? She's like, yeah. I'm like, that's interesting, because I thought it was just bullshit. But I've been hearing rumblings that Trump was going to be on Kill Tony, and they were going to air the episode the Monday before the elections. So it made me think maybe it's not bullshit. Now I don't know. I just don't think they can air that episode, or Trump could be on there now, because then it would make Trump look like a liar. I don't know who Tony Hitchcock is. I've never heard of him. And then he's on his show. I think when Trump wins, though, I think Trump will do him a solid. He'll get him back. I tell a lot of those old school guys like that, a lot of mafia guys and a lot of mob guys and stuff, and just New York guys in general, they might throw you under the bus for a minute to, take the heat off themselves, but then they'll double back and do a solid for you down the road. I've seen it a million times. It's kind of how a lot of, East Coast people are kind of like that. And it's, in my experience, I don't know. In my experience, that's what I've seen in my life. They might, tell their wife or something, hey, they might tell, I don't know that motherfucker. He's not my friend. I don't know him. And then they could say, hey, man, I'm sorry about that. I didn't mean to, throw you under the bus. We are pals. Here you go. Here's 100 spot, So I think that's probably what'll end up happening. Baba Vanga and Nostradamus both had the same terrifying prediction for 2025. Well, I made my film, Armageddon 2025. It's in the download stores. You get a copy if you haven't seen it. Because the reason I made that film, not because I'm predicting the end of the world in 2025, but because there have been so many predictions, so many crazy, wild things of how the world might end in 2025, that I had to make a film about it. Two of the world's most notorious and ominous mystics reportedly made the same exact prediction for 2025. Both Nostradamus and Baba Vanga claim that there will be a deadly war in Europe next year. 16th century French astrologer and physician Nostradamus wrote how lands of Europe will be involved in cruel wars. He then added a speculative tease that read, the ancient plague will be worse than enemies. Yeah, that's interesting because that's something that I've put in my film, Armageddon 2025, and it's one of the predictions that I saw. Is this, a plague or some sort of pandemic or something worse than COVID happening next year. I've been seeing that a lot. And if Trump wins next Tuesday, and it's pretty clear that he's going to, yeah, we probably will see that on the menu again. Meanwhile, Baba Vanga also voiced her concern for a conflict in Europe for 2025, which she said would devastate the continent's population. Baba Vanga, who died 27 years ago in 1996, was a Bulgarian prophetess who became a cult figure among conspiracy theorists after some of her announcements somehow proved to be true. The psychic, who was born Vangelia Pandiva Dimitrova, claimed she had a rare gift from God that helped her see into the future after losing her sight at age 12. Yeah, I mean that, I can't tell you how many cases of things like that I've heard. They have a saying, like, if God takes one thing away from you, he gives you something else even more powerful. Yeah, there's lots of stories and stuff like that. Known as the Nostradamus of the Balkans, she left behind predictions for every year up to the year 5079, when she said the world would end. Vanga grew up on a farm in what is now Macedonia and became blind after being dragged into a tornado when she was young, with believers saying this freak accident was what gave her second sight. She has previously correctly predicted the Russian invasion of Ukraine as well as the 9/11 attacks in New York City. Yeah, that was the only one I knew of. I didn't know any of the other ones, but I for sure remember hearing that, I don't know, 20 years ago, that she had predicted 9/11. Yeah, I remember hearing that one, so. Yeah, it's interesting. Interesting stuff. But like I said, you know, even if the world is going to end next year, it's not going to be anything we can do about it. And getting a bunch of storable food and stockpiling ammo and buying Berkey water filters and all that shit, it's not going to fucking save your ass. It's not. When the shit goes down, that's going to be it. There's not going to be any way out of it. You know? Really. So, just live your best life, man. And I was looking at the numbers, the polling numbers already that have come in for early voting and stuff. And it looks like Trump's going to win by a landslide. And if he doesn't, it's going to be real crystal clear that they rigged the election, because he is way far ahead in almost every single state. I was joking around last night when I looked at that map they showed then all the states that were red and which ones were blue. And I was like, damn, that map might as well just be a fucking list of states you should definitely go to and definitely stay away from. The blue ones were like California, Oregon, Washington State, and then like, you know, upstate, East Coast cities. The rest of everything else was fucking red. And, yeah, man, I'm all about it. Oh, Trump did kind of hint. He'd come around and say that he did kind of hint on that Rogan interview also about, because, you know, I told you, I wasn't initially on board with Trump in the beginning because of his connection with the Council for National Policy and all those people. But he did mention, he talked about, you know, kicking those people out and getting rid of those people. And Rogan even brought it up. And even the only person they mentioned specifically was John Bolton. But, you know, John Bolton was CMP. So, again, you know, the fact that he's not riding with all those cocksuckers again is the one and only reason why I rescinded my dislike for the guy. And the only reason why I had any dislike for him in the first place, which I was crystal clear about from 2015, even before the election 2016 on. If I didn't rescind my belief on that after he kicked those fuckers to the curb, what does that make me? It makes me a hypocrite. So fuck that shit. This Rogan asked him about his ear. He's like, oh yeah, I got a little scar there. A little scar. Dude, come on. Ears just don't. They don't reform. You wouldn't just have a little scar. You got hit with a bullet. But like I said, you know, even if they did fake that assassination attempt, I'm here for it. I'm all for it. Because politics is a dirty fucking game, and we've seen how they played dirty against him, and sometimes you got to play dirty back with those motherfuckers to win. So if that's what he did, I'm all for it. I haven't been secretive about that opinion. All right, guys. I've got to eat. Get a copy of my new film or any of the other 29 films I've made this year. Out now in the download store, though, is Death from the Left. Socialism, Marxism, and Communism. It's a good film. You should see it. And we'll see you next time, guys. Take care.
If I could wave my magic wand, I am made from the dust of the stars, and the oceans flow in my veins. Here I hide in the heart of the city, like a stranger coming out of the rain. The evening plane rises up from the runway over constellations. If I could wave my magic wand, I'd make everything alright. I'm not one to believe in magic, but I sometimes have a second sight. I'm not one with a sense of proportion. When my heart still changes overnight, I had a dream of a winter garden, a midnight rendezvous, silver blue and frozen silence. What a fool I was for you. I had a dream of the open water. I was swimming away out to sea, so deep I could never touch bottom. What a fool I used to be. If I could wave my magic wand, I'd set everybody free. I'm not one to believe in magic, though my memory has a second sight. I'm not one to go pointing my finger when I radiate more heat than light. Don't ask me